Now, if you listen to the theme song of our opener on this show, which talks about real love, it is so soothing, it's beautiful, it's loving. But at the end of the day, we're seeing people killing each other. From that, you are my real love, to my worst enemy. Like, what happened in between? What went wrong? All that soothing moment, all that love, all that... You felt like you can't live without this person. Then what went wrong to the point that you want to take away their life? Welcome to Real Love. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Mary Mwekisa, and today we're discussing dealing with a toxic marriage. What is toxicity? When do you know that this is toxic? Do you even know that I'm in a toxic environment? You may not know. You may think this is a normal environment that every married couple has. So we want you to identify what is a toxic marriage and how do you deal with it? Not how you cope, but how you deal with it. Because we do not want you to live a life of misery. At the end of the day, we want you to enjoy real love. My guests in the studio is Auntie Judy, Dr. Stella, and Coach Teddy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's good to be out here today.
I'm happy to see you too, Coach. I invited you late at night, but you showed up. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I had to show up, you know. This is, I know the feedback I get when you walk in the street about the show.
Yes.
So whenever you have an opportunity and a privilege to be on a show like this, you definitely have to make it happen. So it's a joy to be here.
And it's good that you people are changing lives. You may not know it, but you're changing a lot of lives and mindsets and narratives in these homes. Because people's minds are opening up and they're realizing that, okay, maybe I'm the toxic one. Maybe they didn't know. Okay, so it's very easy for us to point at the other person, but then maybe I could be the toxic person and I don't know that I'm the toxic one in this relationship. So today we're discussing dealing with a toxic marriage. What is toxic?
Toxic is poisonous, dangerous, I think. If we want to go into definitions of toxins, that's why we are nowadays a lot of people drinking so many things to remove toxins in their body. But I think we need to remove toxins within our relationships, in our behaviors, and how we are getting along with other people. And talking about what can toxin do to you, it harms you.
It's harmful.
Yeah, it's harmful. It endangers your life. It's that bad. It endangers your life. It can actually kill you if it is not removed. And also, when there's a toxin, what do? You are supposed to, is it adulterate it? To make it less powerful. Yeah, you are supposed to make it, to disarm it so that it becomes less powerful. So when you talk about in a relationship now, how can we apply the word toxic in a relationship? It is that a lot of things are hurting you within that relationship. There is no happiness, there is no peace, there is no harmony, maybe there's no love at all, because toxin is associated with pain, actually. So there's more pain, and there's no, I don't even want to call it sweet love, where, or painful love, sweet pain, sorry. Sweet pain that, okay, because I love somebody, let me endure the pain. That one is beyond. So you cannot endure, it is extremely unbearable. That's how I would define toxic.
From a male's perspective, what would you call a toxic relationship or a toxic marriage? What are some of the characteristics of this environment?
I think a toxic marriage, for me, is a place where there is physical, emotional, financial, social abuse. So when a marriage gets to that place, then it becomes toxic. Practical examples, it's basically someone demeaning you, verbal abuse, physical abuse, or neglecting you, because it becomes toxic when a partner is neglecting you. You know, because when you get married, the purpose for marriage is oneness, to become one. Now, if you're neglected, it becomes toxic, because then you're not fulfilling the purpose of, you know, why you go together with your partner. You know, so I think for me, that's what I would say on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Stella, let's now understand why this toxic environment is not ideal for marriage. What is wrong with it?
Well, when you look at the toxic environment itself, depending what is toxic, it will affect you in different ways. And sometimes, many times, I would meet people who would say, but how do you even tell that you are in a toxic marriage? Because to start with, we talk about this toxic relationship, toxic. How are you able to tell that you are in this toxic marriage? So depending on, is it verbal, is it physical, what exactly what kind of toxin, what kind of toxicity is there? And how is this going to affect you? To what extent? However, there's something that is interesting that I had jotted down on my Facebook some time back to break it down for someone to have an idea and identify what a toxic marriage looks like. And from what I had written, if you are able to identify with 5 of these things from this list, most likely you are in a toxic marriage.
Okay.
If you're able to identify with
Let's
5.
hear them.
Yes. So number 1, you can't have a decent conversation with your spouse without an argument. You live in the same house. You live in the same house, and yet you rarely talk to each other. You sometimes use children to communicate if you want something to be done. Your spouse likes making threats each time you have a misunderstanding. This includes threats to leave you, deny you conjugal rights, withdraw certain gifts or privileges, beat you or harm you or kill you. Your spouse abuses you physically, slapping you, punching you, or pushing you against the wall or any surface. Your spouse abuses you verbally by telling you things that hurt you and cause you to have a low self-esteem. E.g., your spouse consistently calls you a failure and uses derogatory terms when speaking to you. 6, your spouse abuses you psychologically by regularly subjecting you to mental torture, e.g., leaving you in suspense every time you seek clarification on things that affect you in your marriage. 7, your spouse abuses you emotionally when he or she threatens you, imposes sanctions, and tries to control or isolate you. Your spouse abuses you financially when he or she forcefully controls your ability to acquire an income, use it the way you want, and maintain financial resources. In certain situations, your spouse likes asking for monetary help for things you don't really know about. In most cases, financial victims are prevented from working or doing any kind of business. Your spouse does not allow you to talk to the opposite sex. Your spouse does not allow you to have any friends. 11, your spouse does not allow you to go to church or any other place of worship. Your spouse does not allow you to attend any social events, e.g. weddings or any kind of party. Your spouse does not allow visitors in your home. Your spouse does not allow you to touch his or her phone. Your spouse does not allow you to ask about his or her whereabouts, but he or she is always asking about your location, even demanding video calls. Your spouse blames you for all the challenges you experience in your home. Your spouse is your spouse is a serial cheater who infects you with sexually transmitted diseases and bears children outside the matrimonial home. Your spouse does not disclose his or her projects or investments, and you are expected to sacrifice certain privileges because of the same projects and investments you don't even know about. Your spouse is not answerable to anyone. He or she does not listen to anyone. As a result, he or she does whatever he wants or she wants without any fear. There seems to be no one to sit him or her down. You feel unsupported in every aspect of your life. Number 22, the children are the only reason you are still married to that person. There are 22 of them. If 5, you can identify
Just
with 5.
pick 5, yeah.
Just 5 of those that I've read.
Not half.
Just 5. If you are able to identify with 5,
Then
most likely that marriage is toxic.
Powerful.
Auntie Judy, what do you pick from those points? And you know why I ask this question? Because there's certain behaviors culturally that seem to be acceptable in our country.
Exactly, yes.
Such that people think it's normal and yet it's toxic. And this thing of forcing people to adhere to certain cultural or religious norms, we see what's happening. People are killing each other every day.
Actually, when Auntie Stella was going through those, I was actually identifying them with a lot of traditional acceptability. Like, no, that one, traditional, they will tell you, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
You know,
he beat you.
Yeah,
No, it
it's
means he
okay.
loves you.
That's how he loves you.
She was reading. I wanted to ask her.
Yeah, so
What do you mean someone that you love?
Hey,
But even the women have loved that.
yeah, and they expect it. They expect it.
Which type
They
of
even say,
women?
Which
women? Where are those women found?
It's a myth that women love
But
it.
yeah, but no, they don't love it.
them say.
They don't love it. It's a
those are wrong women.
socialization. It's just a socialization. They don't love it. So
You'll be beaten
those-
to death. We'll see if you love it.
So that actually is, Mary tells us
Yeah.
that marriage is supposed to be a blissful place.
Yes.
Because if we remove those 22, what kind of marriage can you just imagine? Because even me at my age, by the way, I turned 60. You guys didn't wish me.
Happy birthday!
60.
Happy 60th birthday, Auntie
Thank you
Judy.
so
We
much.
love
Happy
you.
belated birthday.
Mary should have put Papa Zedden be later People benefit from the wisdom.
I think so. We need to do that.
So,
Please, all of
actually,
you that benefit from Auntie Judy's wisdom, send in your gifts to Auntie Judy. Send them over. Send them over. Happy 60th birthday.
thank you so much.
So you are as old as Zambia?
Yes.
You were born in 1964.
On 29th March. So
Wow.
actually, I'm the youngest old person.
Wow.
As at now.
Wow.
It brings a lot of wisdom. So I was just thinking also, marking them. Because every person out there, don't even pretend. We should do that checklist. I think what Aunt Stella has given us, it's a checklist where people can say, that one, Karimo marriage. Some of us might not find five.
Muntu sakukambisa. One match mukambisa.
Mumuleka, and then mukamba ndiye mwamene alili. Ati ndiye mwamene alili kumbuka bazani kabisa. But really, the purpose of marriage is companionship. Yes. Companionship is communication, interaction, presence in your life, because there are even some people who are present but they are not present.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know muntu aliko but achitava mene afuna, you don't have a say.
Yeah,
even kukuza ko chabe kuti mwaukabwanji kulibe. You are even sleeping in the same bed, it's just piribuka, that's all. It's toxic. So I think that it is very important that couples must checklist this, and it doesn't matter what age you are, because we are seeing even people above 70, they are killing each other. Couples, they are killing each other. Why? They have gotten so fed up of no love, or no expression of love, or no feeling of being wanted. And I think this is the thing. When you experience any of those things, actually, you start feeling like someone swanifuna. And there are people who have come and said, it's better I think let us just part ways. I'm not necessary mujamnyumba. Vana tizagavana. When ango was married, they even got to say, vana, I think it is that thing. Why now? Why? Because the part of a human being, of a woman or a man, which is so injured, is where that person who used to say they love you, they made you sacrifice. Some women have stopped work just to prove they're a good housewife, and that man disappoints you and calls you all sorts of names. Like they can even abuse you in the presence of children. Those same children that you are actually relating to. And they call you a good for nothing. Even insult your parents. I think that should be 23. Insulting your parents. Like you are like your mother. Or after all, your mother did what your father. It's a very painful thing. So what we are saying is that check your marriage, check your relationship. Are you feeling loved? Are you feeling accepted? Are you feeling at home? Is that a home where you want to go back quickly and meet your spouse? If you don't feel like that, there's toxicity there.
Sure.
That's how I would actually define it.
Okay. So I'm glad you've brought out some things, and Dr. Stella also here pointed out some of the things on that long list regards what should point to toxicity. Coach Steady, how do we draw a line between not expecting perfection and accepting or expecting the basic environment for marriage?
Wow.
I want us to be realistic.
That's really a good question for me. And I always like to say, every time I write about because people catch feelings when you write about toxic marriages.
Very.
They are culprits. That's what I know myself. They are culprits.
That's very
Actually,
true.
before you answer that question, may I please have my phone? There's something I need to show you before I read this question. Just come through. Please come through. It's for this reason that we can't really do our with phones on set, because we need to refer to content.
some things,
yes. So this is a screenshot I got last night. When couples kill each other, there's a group of people we must expose and hold accountable.
Yes.
The marriage counselors, the pastors. That sounds like who? Vanachimbusa and elders who manipulate these people to stay in toxic marriages using religion and tradition. Some do it loudly while others subtle.
Silently.
Unfortunately, most pastors, relationship coaches, counselors, and traditional counselors are in toxic marriages. They are staying there for the business and what will people think of us. No one in a healthy marriage or has a healthy perspective on marriage will keep sending you back to toxicity. Out of the abundance of their experience, they will share with you. This is very powerful. I know some relationship coaches out here speaking big about marriage, but are getting laid outside their marriages. These people are miserable privately. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm simply saying, stop lying. Hashtag Coach Steady. Coach Steady, you like fighting. Coach Steady, you like fighting.
I'm tired of lying. I am tired of people that are not honest.
Yes.
We are not asking for perfect marriage. We are just saying be authentic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Unfortunately, most people are not at a place where they understand that it's not always that you'll be happy. I heard someone say...
It's not possible.
Yeah, I heard somebody
It can't.
says the most successful marriages are couples that have learned not to fall out of love at the same time.
Okay.
That-
One of you must uplift the
At
other.
least, yeah, to keep it going.
To keep it going. So it
That's
doesn't mean that
powerful.
the marriage will be perfect. But I was even, when she was reading that list that she put up, some couples are going through a lot of marriage challenges, but they don't even have time to even read it.
you see?
And yet they say they want a happy marriage. So when we talk about a balance between something that is healthy, it's where both of you are committed to the marriage. Fighting for the marriage, not fighting against each other. The goal is, how do we fight to keep this marriage?
Relationship
Exactly.
on.
Because I always tell people, you can love someone with your kidneys, your liver, and everything, but marriage is mutual.
Yes.
I can love you with everything, but
But
if
do you feel the same?
No. You feel the same. Are you bringing in the same? So if the couple is on the same page, even if it's not a perfect marriage, because people grow through the
Yes,
marriage,
yes.
even if it's not perfect, but every day, the powerful word is every day they show up. How do we find solutions? Not you're the only one who's showing up. Uzale ma. You will get tired. You will get frustrated. So for me, it's a healthy, even if there are imperfections listed in that
Yes.
list. But if two people show up every day to say, how do we build this marriage? How do we
How
find
do we work
solutions?
out?
And one thing I loved about that list, I always preach, is accountability.
Yes.
Never marry anyone who's not accountable to you.
You're on your own.
You will suffer because they will abuse you. And when
will
you
not
want to
answer.
find help, they will tell you you will not go out to get help.
Yeah.
I will not even come to counseling.
Yes, and that's true.
Yeah, I will not
They do
even
that.
show up.
Exactly.
So
Very,
for
very
me, I feel
adamant.
Yeah.
They're not
For me,
accountable.
I think it's very key because there's no accountability. So you can't build a marriage in that space. So it has to be two people wanting to work it out. It has to be two people that want the best, you know. And during these killings, I noticed some people making a statement that, you know, because now they're trying to be subtle about these killings and these marriages. They're making statements to say, this statement of telling people when it's difficult, walk away, it's not right. Like they're trying to be subtle.
They're trying to
keep people
justify.
justifying in those spaces. That's not the point. A wise relationship coach or marriage counselor will assess the situation.
Exactly.
If a partner is toxic, if a partner is narcissistic, they don't. At that point, you don't recommend counseling.
Yeah.
You recommend,
There's something else that
you
should
know,
work. Yeah.
for them to split apart, and that is a separation for them to process.
The
what they
recent
need
case
to
that
do.
we read about involving a man who allegedly stabbed his wife to death and took his own life. Actually, I saw you wrote about it and you said, I wish I met these people. I would
Yes.
have spoken to them.
Yeah.
The recent case of that nature, it is alleged that she had actually moved out because of the environment. And then she was going back to get some of her stuff. Another argument
And that's what
ensued,
happened.
and that led to that. So have you seen, when she was apart, she was alive.
Yeah.
She went back.
And you know, Mary, the truth of the matter is that nobody can, sometimes you cannot tell someone to leave.
Yeah.
It's not possible for them to live to obey you. They are the ones feeling the pain.
Yes.
They are the ones in a toxic situation. They are the ones who are in danger. And if they don't see that danger as much as you can
Yes.
guide them,
Yes.
then, you know, sometimes people just walk into their danger zone and they refuse to leave.
Yeah.
And
There's
you know,
someone who gave an example that,
That's
you know,
true.
marriage is a small prison where those inside want to jump out and those who are outside, they want to jump in.
No, the iron of it all. There was a time my heart bled. I felt crushed. Here's a scenario: someone is being beaten, but because both of them are in the church, and you advise this person to say, I think if this goes on, this person is going to kill you. How about you reporting this person to the police. For GBV? Do you know what one man of God told me? It was wrong for you to have advised.
No ways.
Up to this, to date, when I think about it, I say, like, really?
So what advice were they expecting?
Pray about it.
Pray about somebody.
Pray about it.
No.
Because if you advise,
no.
pray about it. Because if you advise someone to go and report it to the police, their marriage will no longer be the same.
No.
But the marriage,
to be there.
but the marriage is no
It's not
longer the same.
okay,
The fact
yeah.
that this person is
So you see, they want even to blame
Complaining.
you and the police.
Yeah.
to date, when I think about that, I said, what are we doing as a church?
Some of these people are even accusing God.
What
Exactly.
God even gets shocked.
You know,
Say,
even
really?
the devil also
I
sometimes
say you
gets
must
shocked.
die?
Like, I was not there.
That's your
I
God
was
who loves
not
you so
there,
much. That's
yeah.
why you must die
Die?
because of
Can you
marriage.
That's why
imagine?
God gave you a brain to think.
God gave you a brain to reason, and you're able to understand that now this is not working.
It's not
Exactly.
working.
Yes, the Bible says God
Hates divorce.
yes.
He does not
But-
hate divorce. He does not hate
Hate the divorced
divorce
person.
more than hate the death of you.
Yes, and God
He
hates
wants
divorce. He does
life.
not hate the person.
No.
But the issue is, you cannot allow yourself to lose your life because
Exactly.
of being in marriage. And I read somewhere where I saw a post that was saying that the marriage is under attack. There's a spirit going around
Yeah.
and making it look like divorce is the way out. That people should leave their marriages in order to stay alive. Yes, we're a Christian nation. Yes, life is spiritual before it is physical.
Before it's physical.
But how best can we address these issues? Because people are dying, and we can't force them to be together for the sake of.
And this is where the issue is, because if we are just going to say no, we are Christians and God hates divorce and you are as careless like that man of God was telling
Who
me
says that?
don't
report.
Don't encourage them to go to the
you should not
police.
have advised them. You should not have advised her to go and report it because the marriage is no longer. So now, how do you expect this marriage to work? Because in certain instances, when someone is reported, they are helped. What
Better
triggers
than
this
what the
abuse?
church
Yes,
did, yeah.
better than keeping
Yeah,
quiet and praying
yeah.
about it. Some of the
Exactly.
people, when they are reported for GBV, they actually sat down, and where they see that this situation is extreme, they are referred somewhere else to say, I think maybe you need psychiatric treatment and that kind of a thing. But if you just say, let's pray about a situation. Personally, I feel there are situations where you can pray, and there are situations where you need to act.
And the environment also should
Prayer,
allow you.
yes.
How do you pray? Kneel
Faith
down.
without
Someone has
works
got a
is
gun
dead.
behind you.
Exactly, it is dead. So what we are saying, even that list that I've read to say that when you identify with 5, then it means the marriage is toxic. We are not saying once you identify it is toxic, leave. No, once you've identified that it is toxic,
Do something about it.
Do something about it.
I've always said this statement over the years. Before you walk away from a marriage, earn your way out.
Exactly.
So it's not the first fight then that could divorce. No. Earn your way. But also, you must have wisdom to assess where your marriage is.
Exactly.
The example, I watched an interview, I think on ZNBC, of the young lady who was killed. The sister said something very powerful, and I've heard it. This is the second time. There was a trending story of a prophet who shot his wife in the UK.
Yes, I remember that story.
Yes.
And
We
the
heard
brother
that
said
one.
something, and people don't pay attention when people that mean well for you are saying things. The brother said, I told her never to go back.
Exactly.
And she went back and she met her fate.
Shame.
It's the same with this young lady. The sister said, I think I saw it on ZNBC.
Don't go.
Said, don't go. And they met their fate. Assess a place. She spoke about communication. Know when to communicate. There are certain levels where there's no need to sit and
And
Exactly.
even, it's not even possible.
there are places. Assess your marriage. Where is your marriage? How deep is the toxicity in this marriage? Wait. When you weigh, you know what you need to take. That's why you need to have people around you that have enough sense, that love you enough to give you the correct counsel. If your marriage is at a place where your wife or your husband is willing to sit, it's good, because then we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
But if they're not at a place to sit and you still want to have a conversation, you're looking for trouble.
For trouble,
Exactly.
So where your marriage is standing, is it at a place where we can negotiate and find a way out, or it's at a place where we need the police? By the way, there are certain places the marriage doesn't need marriage counselors. It needs the police.
Needs the police,
Exactly,
yes.
exactly.
Armed ones.
Exactly.
Police.
I like that. Because I like that.
Armed police. Yes. No, there's no. I have. Do you know that there's a couple, there's a woman that has armed, heavily armed.
Actually, there was a story that was
Heavily armed.
it had to take armed police
from
officers
the
to
police.
rescue her from the road.
Yes.
So from the police
And
to
Judy's
armed
gangster.
police to heavily armed.
You
Now
know
they
that
bring
I
all
have-
this armory now and all
I'm
this
telling
bulletproof
you,
vehicle.
we are in that age. We are at that time where we need to just know
So some marriage issues now need the armed police.
Yes, heavily armed. Me, I have had to, you know, Coach Ted, I've had to ask a certain woman. She had to spend the night in my home to be safe.
Really?
She had to spend the night in my home. This man was stalking her everywhere. The only place he wouldn't come was my place for counseling. And the woman, I said, just sleep here. She slept there. And for 2 days.
We are fixing this nation.
Yes.
No, we are leaving no one behind.
No, we can't. We cannot.
So at what point do you realize that now we need help? Because again, they said, no, not every issue you tell the public.
Tradition.
And
Yeah,
No, the
the
problem is
same
coming
people-
from the traditional
these same people-
message.
No, that one we have stopped. That one we have stopped. Now, Tinachi- yeah, ayo mazi baufa nayo bauzafa. So, you know, we are the message. And this is very important. The truth of the matter is that we are in a different age. And even us as marriage counselors, and we as families
hear
and nations, we are actually conducting trainings of marriage counselors to come and
please train them.
rebrand the messages. We need to rebrand.
True.
We need to remove the certain things that we used to tell them. We need to start now.
Thank you for accepting.
We have to
Our
make
sisters
it
come with
user
deep wisdom.
friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we have had to. We have to remessage.
Exactly.
There's no way today a Chimbusa can be telling someone that
No, that has changed
which
now.
Chimbusa that one? If that one must be
We
arrested.
remind them to say their marriage will end.
Yes.
There's nothing like you are a man, you can
No.
get away with this. Your
No.
marriage will end. So you really ought to be very responsible in your marriage. There's just no way, okay? There's just no way you can be doing things anyhow and that kind of thing, and you think you can get away with it. No. People have to be told the truth. And you know, sometimes there are certain things like from a traditional point of view, where maybe a man would be told to say, you are the head and you must control everything in that home.
You are in charge.
No, you are in charge. The wife has got no say. Those are some of the things that are changing. No, the wife has got a say because a relationship is mutual.
Yes.
It's mutual. And even in an event that there's something that needs to be discussed, hear her out.
Yes.
It's not a scenario where,
Give her a
listen to what she's got to say. Don't just have that kind of bossy mentality to say, I'm the head of the house, what I say is law. No. If you have that mentality where you say what I say is law, that same law sometimes may be very retrogressive to your home. So it's something, marriage is mutual, and you must get to a place where the two of you must get to a place where you are able to understand each other and be willing to resolve conflicts. The problem comes in when the other part is not willing. And sometimes if it's issues to do with infidelity, you find that this person is not even repentant. Worse still, they're not even remorseful. There is no remorse.
No remorse.
They can't even accept their wrong. So to start with, somebody can't accept their wrong. Automatically, there's room
They are
for
justifying their
yes, they are justifying their wrong. It means
I know
room.
somebody that went, I read actually, of somebody that the husband went and had a child elsewhere. And when she held him accountable, he was like, no, I'm not the first or the last man to do it. So what's the big deal?
Hasn't Judy changed that syllabus? Because they also need feedback if that syllabus has changed, or you're still working on
that kind of
that.
mentality when somebody's not even remorseful.
Yeah.
And then the woman just left the marriage.
Yeah.
After
Oh,
4
really?
children and 12 years of marriage. She
Really?
It's painful. It's painful because you must be held
But
accountable.
that's why I asked and Judy.
And people are blaming her. Hey, mwana chekwa, barache mwana.
Exactly, because that's what we hear most of the
He's
time.
providing
Because
everything for the family.
Yeah, I'm seeing viral
You've got a
videos.
home, he
you've
pays
got everything.
rent, and
Yeah. I've heard some viral video. I've seen some viral videos from someone who's been teaching. Olowamna wako wankhala na wana kunja mupeshe wenkhala
Nkhala,
mchukwazi.
osachokapo.
Upesha ndani, usipesha wewe.
So I don't know whether that
Because
because
each time he
I think
leaves
our
home, you don't
women
know
has
he's
been
gone.
taught that over the time that when a
You
man
know,
brings in kids from outside, and it's very
And
big
why
in our
isn't the man
culture.
held accountable?
And that's why my problem is because I feel if a man has taken a wife and you're married, you
That's
have no
it.
business going to make babies that bring,
Elsewhere.
and then you want to lump them on your wife,
No.
and you're expecting her
No.
to accept that. I think that's a culture we also need to change
That
because
one
I'm seeing
must-
a lot. Unfortunately, it's the women teaching this to their fellow women.
And these are women who also, and it's very sad. That one I can attest to. Some women who are even saying, "So no one in a pan." Ile muja nyumba nisunga wana bali 4. Wanatoka mu places bali 4. So what are we saying? You know, so as counselors we are supposed to
So, but
actually
these counselors, do they realize that they are dealing with a different generation
These are
now?
actually not
A
authentic
different
counselors.
generation, a different mindset,
Yeah.
an exposed mindset,
Exactly.
and an empowered woman.
And an empowered woman.
Very important to
and
underline,
a
empowered,
Man, yes.
not
and
dependent on the man.
Exactly. And a man who must face that things have changed.
Yeah.
A man who must understand that the way I was taught, the things, the way I'm seeing them, they are different. And you know, change is constant. Change is constant. So there's something that has changed. A lot of things have changed about the way people must live in marriage, and also about how to contain their tradition and culture in the marriage.
So
and
as people
still
are taking their
enjoy
children
themselves.
for premarital counseling, or aunties or uncles or whoever it is that, you know, they always have elderly people in the family
who
to find
identify.
counselors. How best
Me, I
is
want
it
to be
that
the
this-
part of the process for my children. No one is picking
Yes.
counselors for my
Actually,
children.
you are supposed to
Yes.
be a part.
You know,
Because
You are
I'm
as a
thinking that
parent.
these are young people, different mindset, different exposure. Like I said, these are empowered young people. They're not going to be housewives. Majority of them are empowered somehow. They have their own
They
income.
don't even think
so you're not
about
going
housewife.
to trample all over them and they'll
No.
sit back. They'll walk away and start a new life because they believe in being happy. Ultimately.
Now,
So how can we avoid getting into these counselors that make it look like the success of a marriage is solely on a woman, and the woman should, it's based on tolerance, and endurance? Like, when can we put this to a stop? Because it's what is leading people to killing each other.
Do you know, I was hearing from
starts
some
from the
young...
counselors.
Yes, I was hearing from some young ladies, actually, a group of them, who were telling me that we don't even want to undergo this counseling because we are just going to be told to stay there, even if things are bad. So that is wrong. And I was teaching these girls to say, no, that is not the way it should be. Then they say, so, Auntie Judy, tell us what's good about marriage.
But by the way, let me actually admit, I was getting to know someone, and I said to them, and that's my stance, I'll be very honest, I said, my future wife is not going through that counseling because you will not destroy my wife for me.
But you know,
from a man's
The person
perspective,
comes with already a compromised mindset
Exactly.
because of the counselors.
that is why, Coach Steady, we need families themselves, the young couples, they must be part of the system of counseling them. It's not like, I know a young lady who ran away.
But their parents are
Listen,
punished for not taking
No.
these
Not
counselors.
this day, anytime. I know a girl who ran away.
know them
from,
well.
I know a girl who ran away from Mtendere, from a counselor's home in Mtendere. The second session, she said, there's no way I'm going to sit here listening to this. This is a graduate from the University of Zambia. And she says, no, this is what this woman is telling me. It's not what I'm going to do in my marriage. She ran away. And now, when the parents came to ask that this child listen what she said, I said, no. What was she being told? So I called them, and when we started counseling, this girl actually said, if this is what I was being taught, I would not have run away.
You see?
you know,
It's the content. So
It's
that's
true.
why we are saying, Coach Steady, here at Families and Nations, we are already receiving counselors who need to upgrade.
Yes.
We are saying we need to upgrade as
How will they need
counselors.
to upgrade?
You know,
We
what
need
it
to
is
upgrade.
that with this marriage counseling, premarital counseling, and all that the ladies and the men go through, sometimes it's the approaches that we use.
Yes.
Because if you are going to ask anybody to counsel your child and all, what is important is that when you entrust somebody to start marriage counseling,
Because that's
and
a lifelong commitment.
yes,
Exactly,
you
true.
don't just leave the child alone. All the time there are teachings, there must be an aunt or a relation to follow the teachings.
And to
because
be-
some
to
of these things, the
understand,
things they teach, oh my
it's
goodness,
true. Yeah.
you'll be shocked.
It's very true.
So you make it a point. People out there, listen, you don't just entrust people outsiders out there and say, Mupunzi seni mwana, no. Every time you ask somebody to counsel your child before marriage, identify an aunt or a relative or somebody who will monitor the teachings.
Yes.
True.
To the end.
Monitor the teachings to the end. And where you don't agree with something, if you are the one who
Raise
is
a point.
raise a point to
Yes.
say, nanga you teaching
Yes.
bwanji. I think if you want
I think
this is going to
I think that's very key, because I think as the aunties and everyone are in those counseling sessions, I think it's a whole household that needs reorientation when it comes to the process
this,
of
yeah.
all this. It's not just the marriage counselors, it's family members. Because Auntie Judy can be doing her good job, but you bring in toxic aunties,
Lambuya.
mbuyas, and we'll start
Who are
fighting with
socialized
exactly
in a different
in
way
a different way.
altogether. Yes.
So they've understood there's need to change the syllabus of what we're doing and what we're teaching. So I think it's all of us to build successful and deal with this toxicity in marriages. Everyone needs to be part of the process.
Of the change, yes.
So that there are no people that are shaming people
remaining behind,
that are walking away from toxic marriages, that everyone is empowered. And I was talking to a couple that we're coaching, premarital. I said, by the way, the purpose for premarital counseling is not just to give you an indication that it's time to go ahead and get married. It's also a possibility to return back to say you are not a good fit for each other.
Yeah.
Because sometimes couples in their mind come to these counseling sessions that we are going to get married. But counseling will expose couples. And when you are exposed, the weaknesses, whether you delay the wedding, whether you go separate ways, it must be part of the process.
And the
because that's the job of what good counselors and coaches do, is to show you, this is a weakness you have here, this is a weakness. How are you teachable? Are you coachable? Because that's another thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
You could have a good counselor, a good coach, but as a couple, are you coachable enough to take in this wisdom?
And on the same issue, talking about a couple, when they've gone through this process, you know, knowledge is power. You've acquired this knowledge from the teachings and all. You are not obliged to follow each and everything that you were taught to the latter. Once you come together as husband and wife, you can agree to discard some of the things.
So
no one will even know that you've discarded.
Do what works for you.
Yes, do what works for you. No one will even know that you discarded this. You know, a very practical example I can give you is that from a traditional point of view, like in Eastern Province, when you are taught, when your husband has given you a gift and all, there are certain things you need to be able to do later in the evenings. You can agree to say, my guy, my friend, you don't need to do all these things when I've bought you a hug and simply thank you will do for me. Are you getting the idea? A hug and simply thank you will do for me. That's one practical example. There are several other things you can agree to say, is this really necessary? And you have formed a unit, and as a unit you can agree what works for you and what makes you happy.
So how do we strike a balance? Because another school of thought to say the reason these marriages are not working today is because we've abandoned our culture. There's some culture will tell you to stay even when you're going through abuse. How do we strike a balance?
So culture, all of us must understand that culture is good and it's dynamic. All of us have one. Each one of us here, there's a certain culture or a tradition that we are assigned with.
Yes.
And the way it was done in 1940 and the way it's going to be done today is completely different. But what it is not to lose the strength, the meaning of that culture. I'll give you an example. The culture of modesty in the Eastern Province is, at least even northern, in several parts of the country, is that a woman who is modest can kneel down to her husband. But I think, how are we teaching this? You know, so it's also the way we are delivering the messages, and that's why I'm saying that we need to re-message them. This girl who doesn't feel that in a Kazingo Gwada Gwada everywhere, and Kazingo Gwada Gwada, what does that mean? It demeans me. We need to get the message across to her that Kugwada does not mean you are a lesser human being than your husband. Just to kneel down and say, oh, one day the food is ready on the table. A modern girl how is she going to receive that message? So as counselors, we have to have a way of communicating this to a new generation.
True.
How are they going to understand this meaning that we don't want to lose? We don't want to lose that tradition. It's rich, it's good.
True.
You know, at every bridal shower, they are making the girl kneel down to the groom. Why? Why is she doing it? So we need to make sure that we make the young people understand the purpose of this tradition and this culture that we are teaching them.
It's true. And
also not to leave them, because also this thing of girl, what about the young men?
Exactly.
Like the marriage is on the head of the
it
girl.
cannot be heavily
She has to
put
make
on
it
the
work.
girl.
The guy doesn't even know why you're kneeling. He's just shocked.
What is going on here?
He's
Let
not
the men
taught.
be involved,
Yes.
and let the shibukombes, serious, true shibukombes, be assigned young men to take them into marriage. Not shibukombe who is going to teach how to drink and how to humanize and how
Those
to
shibukombes are toxic,
to prove that
Very toxic.
a man has got a lot of power and he can have 100 children.
True.
No.
Yeah,
agree
so
with
how
you.
do we strike this balance
Yes,
with
please.
regards to culture? We need to acknowledge that culture gives us an identity.
Yes.
We cannot run away from cultural
Not
norms
at all.
because it is culture that will give you an identity. However, what is important is to strike a balance.
Yes.
From these cultural norms, these cultural practices, you need to be able to identify which ones are enslaving you,
Yes.
which ones
what
are
works.
good, and what works, and all.
Yes.
And also to be flexible.
Yes.
There are certain things that are culturally influenced that people want to still hold on to, and yet they're enslaving them.
Yes.
You know, so certain things you realize, I think we are being enslaved. Why should we keep holding on to such a thing? So agree. I think in a marriage, agree. And like the other point in addition, she's brought up about the men out there. Don't run away from
Counseling.
premarital counseling.
Yes. You are just as part.
Be there, be available, get the teaching so that even when things are happening in that home, you have an understanding why this woman is doing what she's doing and how she's doing whatever she is doing. And even those who are already married, do you know that the men shun marriage counseling?
Yeah,
Even when a woman has identified to
The
say, I
problem.
think this marriage is toxic. I think to Batan this day, there are very few men who are willing
no,
out
men
there.
refuse.
Why?
Am I lying?
Why is that
100%.
so?
I agree
Why
with you.
is that so?
I don't know.
I think it's for me personally, I feel I think sometimes we have empowered an African man that is toxic, and that's a sad thing. Now, you give power to a toxic man, it becomes a problem.
And power corrupts.
And make him understand he's the head.
He's a head. He becomes a
Head.
bully. He
Yes.
becomes a
yeah.
headmaster.
Yeah.
Dictator.
Exactly. And that's where the problem is. Most men who don't want to go and take help because they feel they know.
They know it all.
When they don't.
And
They know
actually,
nothing.
the majority of them
Think that they know.
they think they know,
They don't know
but
that
they
they don't
clueless.
know.
Exactly. They are
clueless.
too
They don't know.
clueless. And I tell my team, I say, sometimes I get offended when I see families go and debate a guy with no sense.
Yeah, and
You
not
go-
even knowing, even the
you know,
doesn't
like,
appreciate it.
even our
Doesn't
sisters,
know.
when you take a man to your parents' house, take a sensible human being.
Yes, please.
Like people sing the whole night to go and debate a fool. Come on.
We can do
What
better.
Ladies, you can do better.
I look at this, some of these men
They
that
don't
do
deserve
this.
it.
They don't deserve it.
And
They
the
don't
women,
deserve
the family, the aunties, the grandmothers, kulala usiku wonse kupika.
Can you imagine?
Imwe, sure.
For a nobody.
Chakula nsini.
For a nobody.
For a cheater.
Exactly.
And
So
that is someone, because of lack of knowledge, even when now that somebody comes back there, he doesn't even know what is expected to do.
Exactly.
And there's a shibukobe who's just waiting to drink and eat the chicken. He does not teach him anything.
I tell you.
It's very sad.
It's
I feel for me, this is why. To be able to deal with the issue, there's tradition. And I think for me, most of what we call tradition comes from the Bible. There's a powerful scripture, you know, in Ephesians that talks about wives submit. It starts addressing the wife.
Yes.
It teaches about honor, reverence. So the kneeling is biblical.
Yes.
You know,
It is biblical.
But there's a part most men don't see. When it comes to a man, it talks about nourishing her. If you love your own body, you will not inflict the pain
Upon it.
Yeah.
upon this woman that you are
Who's
taking
your
on.
body?
Who's your body?
Exactly.
If men understood that you need to nourish the woman, it's not just the T-bone and the beef. It's how you take care of the woman emotionally. If a wife wants to have a conversation, if a woman wants to talk, and that's another thing men don't do. They don't want even to have a conversation. When they sit, when they sit at a tavern with other foolish men, they will say, when you go home, don't listen to these women because they never make sense. And you don't understand that you're destroying the wife that you've taken. If you've read that scripture, it talks about nourishing her, living with her like your own her. How do you nourish? How do you sustain? How do you make sure she glows? It's in the Bible. But men don't read that scripture. And even, unfortunately, most of our Shibukombes don't, because they will teach a man. They will never even teach that stupid proverb that says, if they read that scripture,
that's true.
because if they're arguing, there's a scripture. How do you argue with the one that designed and built a marriage? So I think for me to deal with toxicity is a wife must walk into a marriage empowered. And I'm not talking about bossy. Two people. This is the only way you deal with it.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say this, and I know some people are not ready for it. Somebody made a statement. I read this and I thought it made a lot of sense. It says, they say, not until death do us part, for as long as this marriage stays healthy.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
For as long as this marriage
That's powerful.
stays healthy.
Not death, because death can come in many forms.
Exactly. So I feel
Not
a
the
wife
death was
must have
seeing
that
of late.
power. When we're teaching our women, we must empower them. That when, because some of these men delela these women. You know, and I know I'm betraying, I don't even care. They delela, they would delela the woman
true.
and treat her anyhow. And because tradition has given more men the power.
Yeah.
So our women are walking into these marriages like they are lesser of a human being. They are not less. They must have the power. You go and read that, repost that, go and read on Judy's post.
Yes.
Read that again. So you know when the marriage is healthy and you're able to say, I love you, I honor you as a king, but the way you're treating me is not healthy.
And you know what, ladies and men out there, you should be able to realize and know that I think this is becoming toxic. If you're losing your mind,
Yeah.
You're stressed all the time.
You're stressed all the time. You're losing your mind. You are no longer functional.
Anxious.
You can't even concentrate. Even at work, everybody's wondering what is happening to you. You are no longer loving the children the way you were loving them. Even when you look at your partner,
many of them resort to alcohol abuse.
you see that kind of a thing. So when you see that you are resolving to alcohol abuse, you are not just happy. It's like this is not the kind of marriage that you were expecting. There could be something seriously wrong, and in this case, it could be that the marriage has become toxic.
So how do I know if I'm the toxic one?
That's a good one. Go deeper there.
How do you know that you are the toxic one? Sometimes you need to be open. You need to be open-minded.
Because I see the toxic ones watching this one, they're saying, hey, bakamba bati.
Exactly.
The ones who like pointing fingers at others. Very narcissistic.
You need to be open-minded. Sometimes you will not know that you are the toxic one. Sometimes you would think that what the rules and the rules that you are bringing to the table, you think that they are there to help the marriage. So you will not know. You think it's for good, and yet you are harming the marriage. So how are you going to know that you are the one who is toxic if your partner tells you so? Believe them.
Yes.
Don't say you and I want to No. Believe them. If they are telling you to say, honey, sweetheart, I think you are becoming toxic, ask them.
Take a time and
probe.
reflect.
Why do you think I'm becoming? No, lately you are isolating me. You don't want me to associate with anybody. Lately you are not talking to me. Lately you are not bringing any money home. Lately you are beating me. So I think you are becoming toxic. Don't say, that's what. Listen. That's how you know. Listen to what your partner has got to tell. Don't be defensive.
How many people listen for purposes of understanding and reflecting?
Yes.
Because many times they listen to just respond and
Yeah,
win an argument.
yes, and some of
Actually,
them
they're
have
just
given
wired to be defensive.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
the sad
can't
part.
resolve because they can't even
Especially
listen
this gender.
without being yes, our
That's the sad
gender.
part.
This
Our
gender.
gender,
Ah,
yes.
no.
But even some men, they will
Yeah.
not listen to you to say, okay, this person has a point, let's find a solution. They will feel, no, me, I'm a man. Why should a woman point my wrongs? No.
You know
I
what
will
I
look
think,
for her wrongs,
Mary?
also, and highlight them.
Yeah.
What
Listen.
I usually advise is that a couple, you are living in the same home and you are together, you are Mr. and Mrs. Find time in every day every day, like today is Friday.
Yes.
If you haven't done it in the morning, find time in the evening, even just 5 minutes, sit face to face. What do you think I didn't do right today? Just ask your partner, ask your husband, ask your wife. It's nothing, it's not out of the reality to ask. Let your wife be free to say, Mwachinsha utapati. Hey, I didn't like what you did.
I didn't like your tone.
Yeah, or even simple things are like, you didn't tell me today that I looked nice. You didn't tell me. You know, just.
And I felt bad because everywhere I went, everybody was telling me that I was looking fabulous.
Like that was perfect.
Exactly.
You know, that dresses. I didn't like that. You know, so couples need to be more
talk more often.
They let them be open more to each other.
And if they can add pillow talk.
Yes.
If you cannot have time to sit, or else as you go to bed.
Yes.
Rely on your partner. Talk about these things. We call that pillow talk. But the problem is some of you
don't even go to bed at the same time.
That's what I wanted to say. Some of you problem is you want to end up kugona 02.
You are on the phone.
God forbid. God forbid.
I think
Thank God for Zesco now. There's no changing. No one will stay watching football all the time.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll add on is, how do you know? I think for me that's a bigger question.
Use that as you wind up.
I made a statement, and I'll say it, that this year I am not doing conferences on how to find a partner. I'm doing conferences on how to find yourself.
Yourself first.
Because most people are running away from themselves and trying to run and be partnered with somebody. How do you know who you are, your brokenness, your trauma, when you keep ignoring yourself? So when you are self-aware, when your partner holds you accountable, you can receive that and not be offended.
Exactly.
So for me, is getting to know who you are, find who you are, so that when you get married or you're in a relationship, when your partner points out, you are secure enough to receive correction and not be offended. When they tell you that is not going the right way, how you're dealing with it, you'll be able to receive it because you're self-aware. So don't go to finding a partner conference this year, go to finding yourself
Find
conference.
yourself first.
That's deep.
I want your concluding remarks.
You know, when it comes to this toxic marriage, and people will talk about it, but at the end of the day, familiarize yourself with what is toxic, so that when your marriage becomes toxic, you'll be aware and you'll be able to seek help.
True.
What kind of help? Walking away?
Walking
toxic.
End your way out.
No. Yes, that's the thing. End your way. That's the word. End your way out.
Yeah.
So we are not going to throw the baby with the water. No.
Okay.
You seek. You must be able to look back and say, what is it that I did not do? You must have gone to your pastors. You must have gone to your counselors.
Pastors.
The right one.
I like that one. You must have gone to the right pastors.
That's very important.
You must have gone to the right counselors. You must have done something to preserve your marriage. You will look back and say, I did what I could.
True.
Yeah.
The blood is not on your shoulder.
At the end of the day, every couple, when they were getting married, they did not get married to divorce. They did not get married to abuse each other. They did not get married to kill each other. So go back to the drawing board. Where did it go wrong?
Exactly.
Try to do that together. Not one person is finding out, the other one is busy just declaring it's done, it's done. No. What have you to put into that marriage? What value have you added in that relationship? And so that when that value has gone, you see who is responsible for adding that value back. Everybody has got a responsibility. It's not a one-man show. Marriage is for two people, and two people must work at it.
Coach, your last remarks?
I think for me, I've said this statement on the show, and using her words. Every marriage must have KPIs.
Yes.
I use that in my coaching programs.
Yes.
You must have KPIs. You must know when you're delivering, and you must know when you're not, without taking offense again. If your wife or your husband is complaining about toxicity in the marriage, sit, examine. And when you've examined and you've looked at everything, when you have a weakness in an area, find help. Find someone who can coach you, mentor you, counsel you, so that you become better. so that we can minimize the divorce cases.
The deaths.
So that the deaths, yes. So we can have more happier marriages, blissful marriages. That's really the goal. But it doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of intentional
Input.
work. When you marry someone, make sure be intentional that they are happy and you're committed to the process of their happiness.
Thank you so much, Coach, Dr. Stella, and Auntie Judy, thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Remember to invest in your marriage. Invest in your marriage, and even if you're still married, there's no harm in you going back for counseling. Actually, you need the counseling much more than those that are not yet married, because you know the things you're dealing with. And if you can't solve them and you don't trust anyone, a family member or a pastor, go to the right counselors and they'll speak with you. In short, find time to take care of your marriage. Do whatever it is to have a healthy solution to whatever issues that you're dealing with, because there's definitely solutions. What matters is how you address the issues and not killing each other or walking away. It may sound easier said than done, but if you talk to the right people, believe you me, you will be shocked. Solutions are definitely out there. Thank you for watching Real Love. We wish you all the best, even as you enjoy your marriages. Happy married life. Goodbye.
Yes.